Yes, welcome back to the Magic Sponge podcast, a miracle cure for all your rugby league injury issues. I'm Brien. I'm the guy behind all the NRL Physio content you see on social media. My co-host, James, you are here. Mate, it is T-minus. It's not even a week, mate. It's like 5 days until the greatest weekend on the calendar, Magic Round. It's also only like 3 or 4 days, I was saying to you, until Origin kicks off, mate. We've got Women's Origin on Thursday night this week. I'm so keen. I'm going to be at Suncorp and on Caxton Street, I think more nights than not over the next week. Like, I feel like I'm going to be, it's just great. It's a great time of year. How are you, mate?
Really good, Brian. It's really, really, really exciting times in the lead up to Dad's schoolies. I think, God, the countdown's on. It's going to be a tough old week to sled through at work because my mind is going to be on all things to do with Caxton Street. The thirst levels are at all-time high, Brian, so I'm going to have to abstain from anything that way and then really load up for the weekend and catch up with some good people and make some memories is going to be the plan for Magic Round. I can't wait for it, mate. It's always a belter.
Yeah, mate. Oh man, it's just greatest weekend. If you haven't done it yourself and you're thinking about doing it, just do it, especially before the NRL or whoever decides to move away from Brisbane. I mean, we're biased because we live in Brisbane. We think Brisbane's the greatest place going around, but I do think unbiasedly that Suncorp and the surrounding entertainment via places to pull up and have a beer, it just is an awesome experience being able to walk to all the pubs and just do it before it goes elsewhere, because I think there's not many places like it. So mate, let's jump straight into it. We're going to talk about Magic Round plenty in the question section. Funnily enough, we've actually haven't got too many injuries this week, which is fantastic. So it gives us more time to answer heaps of questions on Magic Round. So we'll get to that very shortly. As always, guys, we're on YouTube. Check us out over there if you want to see our beautiful faces or me in my wonderful Queensland gear leading into Origin this week. This show is your one-stop shop for all things injury analysis in the NRL. We run through all the injuries, we loop it back to SuperCoach and fantasy, and try and educate you on injuries and how players get back out there on the field. Without further ado, let's get into the injury wrap for this week, which is brought to you by Pain Pod, drug-free pain relief anyone can use.
I don't know exactly what he's done. I would have thought it was an ankle, but I'm just guessing.
He shouldn't be out for a long period of time. I'm no doctor. We have to wait for the scans, obviously, but that'd be more positive than negative.
Let's rip and tear for round 8, Brian. So we've got the HIAs as we usually begin with. So the two names here, Suafalongo and Gordon Tong from the Manly Sea Eagles there to talk through. Anything you want to add for those two guys regarding HIAs over the weekend?
Yeah, mate, I think just Sua, that's his second HIA, failed HIA in the last 6 weeks. I think he had one in Queensland or New South Wales Cup earlier in the season. So it just means when you've had a failed HIA or concussion in the previous 3 months, you can't apply for, as I've said in the past, I'm very, very nervous about saying definitive things when it comes to this stuff because the criteria, oh boy. But yes, by what the criteria they have put out, he cannot apply for a dispensation. So I think even Craig Bellamy was talking about them potentially playing Joe Chan in the centres next week because they are a bit short. I think Kane Bradley's probably going to come onto the wing. He was pretty good the week before, but a little bit short there. Mate, just once again, we have to touch on it very briefly because it's all anyone is talking about. We predicted it to a T, this high tackle bullshit, right? And you're listening to a show where you could go back and clip up so many times of me talking about how important it is to adequately police high contact and poor tackle technique and all that kind of stuff. That is not what's happening at the moment. We've got the mitigating factors just seems to be out the window. That doesn't exist, but then sometimes it does. Isaiah is somehow, he stays on the field. And then the worst, I don't know about you, James, but I thought, and this, I can say this because I won't claim bias towards the Broncos, but the worst act of the entire weekend got nothing, which was Sitili Tupouniua's knee.
100%.
How?
100%.
Oh, mate. Like I've said in many group chats, I've got a lot of group chats with the different leagues that we're in through the Sponge, where people were talking to me about it. And I said, look, and I think the biggest thing I would say to anyone, as disappointing as it is, whether it be with the high tackle stuff, whether it be with the HIA stuff, I think we've all just got to give up on consistency at this point in time, because otherwise you're just going to do your head in, because it's cooked, mate. And as I said, I'm the person who is often shouted down on social media for being too soft and, it's an accident. And I mean, the intro to our show is about all the bullshit, the slow motion, it was an accident, blah, blah. So I don't believe in all that stuff, but yeah, they've just taken it. It was funny. I went up and saw my old man over the weekend, and he's a farmer, as country as it gets. And he was, he said, it's like, is it PETA? The thing for animals, the cruelty
with you.
against animals.
Yeah.
Like as a concept, like being against cruelty to animals is something most people can get around, right? Like we're all like, yeah, like no, we don't want cruelty with animals. But then Peter just goes and does this like really weird stuff sometimes. And even like your normal people are like, what the hell are you doing, Peter? Like we can't get around that. And I feel like that's almost what's happening with the head high stuff at the moment. We can all get around guys not hitting guys in the head, but it's just, they've just taken it. I don't know. I'm sure you feel the same, mate, but I just wanted to do my little rant because it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think the hard thing about the weekend just gone, Brian, was the Thursday night was all over the shop, and it just set up a weekend of inconsistency to follow it. That was the biggest issue about Thursday night, that Broncos Bulldogs game. Like, I remember saying to you just behind the scenes, I was like, the two sort of relatively shoulder chargy mechanisms on, I think one of them was Payne Haas, the other one was Brendan Piacura. They got sin bin. I was like, that were borderline send-offs, but because they got binned, then everything else got treated relative to that. And Jared Sutton just had no control of that game. Like, there was so many more instances that the Bulldogs could have had more guys in the bin. They already had 4 in the game, I think, from memory. And then Satili copped nothing for that knee, which was gruesome. That was as bad as it gets. I don't know how that didn't get anything. When you see what Cody Nikorima went to the bin for in that Finns game compared to that, you're like, oh my God, there's just a spectrum there that just doesn't even add up or make sense. So it was really hard because I think they had so many guys in the sin bin. They didn't want to ruin the game and make it 80-0, but they probably just had to do it and just say, well, actually, this guy's just been kneed in the head. We've got to send him off. Like, I think that's the issue is there's probably an element of like, oh, we need to keep the spectacle. We need to not ruin the game. Because we saw that in the Origin last year when Reece Walsh got knocked out. It was, oh, you've sent a guy off, you ruined the game. And there's all this backlash with that. But I think, when you see something pretty gruesome that's pretty brutal like that, you can just go, okay, we can live with a send off here. It's a round of footy. The Bulldogs were down 34-0. Send a guy off. It's 70-0. Okay, whatever. We just write that game off and we move forward. But I think as soon as there was inconsistency in that game, it just transpired for the whole weekend, and it just didn't end well, did it? There's just not really anything. And I think to your point, yeah, you probably just got to take it on the chin and go, you know what? We're not going to get anything set in stone. I hope it's not as farcical as Magic Round was 3 years ago when it all sort of started again. Like, I think that'd be really disappointing to see because it's such a big slate of games on the rugby league calendar. You don't want it to turn into that where everyone's got a skinful and just saying, send him off for any incident or any penalty. It turns into a bit of
it'll be exactly the same as that year where like over the next 4 to 6 weeks, they'll gradually like stop doing it, right? And they'll paint it as, oh, players have improved their technique. Like, when in reality, because some of those ones this weekend, nobody.
The Cody one was the worst I've seen.
But
like,
nobody
him getting 10
noticed
for
them,
that.
right? Like nobody
No.
noticed them. So it's not like those ones that nobody noticed. So like the player who did it didn't notice. The player who got tackled didn't notice. The referee didn't notice, but then the bunker noticed. And that gets put up as in the stat column as a sin bin, right? So then in 8 weeks' time, when the sin bins are less, the only person who noticed that sin bin was the bunker. So you can't turn around and say to us, oh, because you're the only ones who noticed it. So you can just stop noticing it and not, it's just, ridiculous. So anybody out there who's frustrated, the game's gone soft, crew, who probably don't listen to this podcast anyway, I am kind of on your side with this one because, yeah, it's become a farce. At least follow mitigating factors. That's my biggest thing is that and also on top of mitigating factors, it's no explanation. This whole don't ask, don't tell thing with both the HIAs and the head high stuff, it's just ridiculous because people are just frustrated and it just balls away.
Yeah, it's we make it more complicated than it needs to be. The beauty in rugby league is the simplicity of it, I think, sometimes, Brian, but we sort of try to get away from that a little
We're
bit.
a
We'll
working
move on
class
to the
game,
injuries.
James.
We are.
Class.
We're a working class game for working class people. That's what we're here for on the Magic Sponge. We're for the people. We're all about that. So the games we'll talk to in injuries from that. Broncos v Bulldogs. Jordan Riki was ruled out pre-game with an infection of some description, and Adam Reynolds, obviously, with a shoulder concern. Probably stayed on the game a bit too long there, Brian, didn't he? He sustained that in it was pretty early doors, wasn't it? I think it was in like sort of the 25th or 30th minute, and he played nearly the whole game, which to me was a bit of a head scratcher given how big they were up there for quite a period of time.
Well, especially because the Broncos, I didn't have a look at the team list to be honest, but I know they've played like 3 hookers in their team.
We got the 3 hooker rotation.
That's
mate.
what I mean. Like, just put Billy out to 6,
Yeah,
Hunty into 7, and just take Renner off. Like, that made minimal to no sense to me. So, look, like I said at the time, it was a fairly textbook shoulder instability mechanism. So he's kind of landed on that outstretched arm, pushed it up. He seemed to get, what looked like a bit of a subluxation, those kind of things. The Broncos aren't scanning it. Like the big thing for me, I flipped between like a minor subluxation, but the other thought that I had at the time, particularly with that last mechanism, if you go to my profile and look at the video, the last incident before he came off, he just got pushed in the back. And then I went back and had a look at the initial mechanism, and I'm like, as well as landing on the shoulder, he does get a fair bit of kind of sideways flexion with his head. And now we know Adam Reynolds has had that neck surgery in the off-season. He's had problems with burners in the past coming from the neck, like disky kind of issues. And he did describe it as the back of his shoulder went numb, pins and needly, all very nervy stuff. It can be a subluxation kind of thing as well, like that pins and needly nervy because the nerves can get tractioned or trapped. But yeah, I just wonder whether there is like they've just written it off as, oh yeah, it's just that age old like burner kind of neck disc issue that you've got, and it's just kind of stirred it up a little bit. But yeah, I think either way, if it's a subluxation, if it's a nerve thing, it's very unlikely. Like maybe he misses a week at most, because even if it's a subluxation, provided that he hasn't fractured anything or done anything like that, usually guys come back pretty quick. It's just for both of those options. Once again, it's the re-injury risk moving forward. There is a bit of aggravation risk there. If it is, a shoulder instability, makes him more susceptible to having another one like that moving forward. And then with his neck as well. I'll quickly just say on Jordan Riki with the infections, I put a post up just to illustrate. There's been a crazy number of infections, whether it be like post-operative. And I didn't put it up there to be like all NRL players are ferals.
Grubs,
it's not, that's not what I'm saying. It's more just the sheer number. I've never sort of seen this many, and it's very wide across. So it's not a post to be like, oh, there's a cause of this. It's just it's a post to point out how many there've been, because there's been skin ones like this. So Jordan Riki had a little cut. I think Adam Reynolds even had a staph infection or something leading into this game that he played through. He was saying that he was pretty rank the morning of the game. Jordan Riki was the same. So they've had the skin ones, but then we've had post-operative ones. We've had lung infections. We've had blood infections after spider bites with John Bateman. So yeah, there's been a lot of infections, but yeah, not. I wasn't saying that there was a connection between them all. Mate, as our resident Broncos expert and big Broncos homer, how are you feeling about Reynolds' shoulder, like moving forward?
It's a really good question, isn't it? It's risky, isn't it? Like you sort of don't want to use the term ticking time bomb. I don't think it's to that degree of extreme. I do want to. I secretly do, but it's your thing. It's not my thing. I don't want to steal your thunder there, but it is a little bit concerning. I think ultimately I'd be pretty happy if it needed a week or two, and they were very sure about what we needed to do for that moving forward. He's such a big part of what they do. We've seen to this year so far, when he's on, they are on, and they are on big time. Whereas I don't think that had the same, effect or sort of same outcome if Hunty was running the show there, or Kobe Black, or even someone like that, like a Jock Madden or something like that. I don't know. I think they really really need him. They really need him at the back end of their season. There's a few little injuries floating around for them at the moment. Like there is a part of me that really, because I own, for some reason, Selwyn Cobbo in standard still, I'd really like to see a goal-kicking fullback Selwyn Cobbo for Magic Round. That'd be a very vibey thing for my Supercoach side, but we'll see what happens with Adam Reynolds in the days coming up before Magic Round rolls around, hey? So Roosters vs Dragons was next on the slate here, Brian. So Dylan Egan, only name on this list with a hand concern. Are we expecting time off for Dylan Egan here?
Mate, I just saw him kind of clutching it as a hand coming off once again. No mention of it in the post-match presser. Nothing since. I do have a few connections around the Dragons, so I'll try and chase that up probably tomorrow. But just worth mentioning, I think there's a few of these this week. It's just my little rant about injury coverage of the game just continues with little stuff like this because, reporters might not know Dylan Egan as being this big name, but there's tens of thousands of people who have him in their Supercoach team that would, click on an article about, to find out whether he is okay or not. So, I don't think it was anything major and potentially just a coaching decision for him to come off, but I did notice him kind of clutching at something. So, and there was no obvious mechanism, so we'll just have to see what comes of that.
Yeah, close watch on Dylan Egan there. Next game was Warriors versus Knights. Tyson Gamble was a nose fracture pre-game here, Brian. So I'm not expecting him to miss too much time with that, are we?
No, only a week or two. I would say it was more just to line things up and probably clear out his airways. It sounds like his airways were pretty blocked. I said in my post, usually for any major kind of nose reconstruction-y kind of stuff, guys will wait till postseason or even post-career, like a guy like Cooper Cronk. Blake Ferguson, probably one of the more famous ones. Although I don't even think he's got his fixed up yet. I don't know if he's still playing. But see, the danger is you go through all this reconstruction stuff and then it's just so easy for it to break again. So it's like you go through all the risks of surgery and those kind of things and then it just goes again. So, very rare to need surgery for this kind of thing. But I'd say it's fairly minor surgery and he'll only miss a week or two.
Good update there. Storm versus Bunnies was the next one. Cody Walker with a calf injury again, Brian. We're expecting a pretty lengthy amount of time for Cody missing for the Bunnies again, who just seem to rack up the soft tissue injuries.
Mate, they are
Crazy.
not. Oh, it is. Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people. I get questions every week. I think we did the big explainer on the Rabbitohs and we did the big explainer on the hamstring. And then when I put out that questions post every week, I still get questions about the Rabbitohs and I still get questions about hamstrings. So, look, I mean, it's starting to really build to a point. It's only a half season kind of sample size, or because they've had kind of the preseason and then the first 8 games so far. And I say that I know their injuries were bad last year, but that was another performance,
Massive outlier.
and with also another regime, right? They've brought in
true. Yeah.
new, performance staff, all that kind of stuff. So it's been a complete clean out with Wayne coming on board. So I know heaps of people are pointed to, like, is it Heffron where they train is potentially that's it. But it would be unprecedented for a surface to be the cause of something like this. It would be much more common for it to be, if you were to point to anything, for it to be like a training load kind of thing. So I'm sure the Souths are going through all their things at the moment and checking. But I think this particular case with Cody Walker, it's a bit like if Tommy Turbo does a hammy, it's very unlikely to be a loading thing, and it's more likely to just be Tommy's had that many hamstring injuries. He's such a high risk of re-injury. Cody had 3 calf issues last year. He had a calf issue that kept him out for 6 or 7 weeks in the preseason this year. he's like, we know the calf injury is called the old man injury, and it's almost doubly likely once you get over the average age in the NRL to suffer a calf injury. So yeah, I think it's just all those factors playing to one. He's going to miss 4 to 5 weeks at this point in time, even with like a minor kind of calf issue. It's just someone, I know a few people are looking at him like, if he, before he suffered the calf injury, is like because 5'8's a bit crappy. Do we go him with Latrell back? He's just someone I couldn't touch, even if it, maybe if he was basement price, like sub 300, and I just wanted to throw someone on the bench to play matchups, maybe. But yeah, I just think that if you're relying on him, you're probably going to burn trades, which isn't ideal for someone who doesn't have a heap of upside at this point in his career.
He's not far from 300, Brian, I don't think. I'm pretty sure he's 350
Oh,
with
there you
a
go.
pretty big break even, and he's dual. So there is like a little bit of appeal for a Cody Walker, just if the bunnies like got healthy all of a sudden. Like,
Yep.
but you would be gambling on the health of the soft tissues as well. So I think he's not too different at this point in the season to a Tommy Turbo. If you're going to bring back him Tommy in fullback, you're going to wear whatever comes with it. You're going to wear the big stuff and the little stuff and the everything in between. So I think that's probably one to keep in mind. It's probably really at the sixth position. There's so few options now with Matt Burton missing a few weeks with suspension. If he was healthy and available, could he be a downgrade option potentially? Just gets you through a few weeks, but again, you got limited trades. You got to balance that all up. We'll move off the bunnies there, Brian. We'll go Cowboys Titans. So nothing out of that game. Panthers versus Manly were the next ones, and 2 pre-game rule outs for the Manly team. Jason Saab with an ankle concern, which was a part of, I think, just a high ankle issue that sort of just flared up. He came back the week before, but that sort of seemed like it just flared up. And then Josh Aloiai with a shoulder concern there, Brian. Do you want to speak to Joshy Aloiai to start with?
Yeah, so he's been battling this AC joint injury, and it just shows you how they're not all, straightforward comeback. And then we talk about ACs having a quick turnaround with return. I think Aloiai has been there and abouts for the last 3 weeks kind of thing. But yeah, they're easy to aggravate. So this is the concern with AC joint injuries. And then, to Jason Saab, kind of similar thing. This is why high ankle sprains, I'm always a little bit more concerned than a lateral ankle sprain or a low ankle sprain, because they're just easier to aggravate. It's why a lot of guys end up getting surgery on, say a moderate grade high ankle sprain. Now, this is a low grade one, so it's not like a surgical candidate at this point in time, as far as we know. But when you get those moderate grade ones and stuff like that, we're seeing guys get surgery more and more because the stability that tightrope provides, and a lot more predictable return to play and also return to performance as well. So it just 2 textbook cases of when you hear me talk about high ankle sprains or AC joints, as I'm a little bit concerned about it. I always have people come back at me once that player goes back and is fine. Yeah, like a lot of them are, but then there's cases like this. And I know these 2 probably not a lot of people care about because they're not highly owned in SuperCoach, but this could just as easily be like a Jaden Campbell, for example, who's dealing with a high ankle sprain, who's not getting surgery for it. Now, like they've said, 4 to 5 weeks, he might come back and then aggravate it and then be out like that. This is the thing. And the odds are still in his favor, but it's just always worth noting that there are certain injuries that you have to be a little bit more concerned with. And an AC joint injury and a high ankle sprain are definitely 2 of them.
Nice summary there, Brian. We'll move to the Raiders for the Dolphins next. So 2 guys ruled out pre-game for the Finns. Maxi Plath with a foot injury and Kurt Donoghoe with an ankle injury. Dan Saifiti looked like shoulder instability episode out of this game there, so maybe a possible subluxation for Dan Saifiti, who's been putting up numbers in SuperCoach, Brian. My goodness, he's been good at front row's a stacked position, so there's probably not many that own him, but geez, he's been good this year.
Yeah, mate, I talked him up as a draft play in the preseason and then didn't follow any of my advice, and I own him in none of 0 of 6 draft leagues, so good from me. But look, he's been great for the Finns as an avid fan. He's been pretty much all we've got in the middle at times, apart from Plath, who's been good too. But yeah, like I initially, to be honest with you, I was pretty busy today. This is bad of me, bad Finns fan, but I was pretty busy, so I didn't get to really sit down and watch the game live. So I only watched kind of the replay, which was a bit of a depresso. But it at first glance looked like a bit of an AC joint thing, kind of landing on the point of the shoulder. But then when I went back and watched it slower, he kind of lands on that tip of the elbow first, which drives that shoulder up. And then you could see kind of after he suffered it, it was almost like he was like, I can't get it back into place. He was kind of like throwing it forward to kind of try and get it back in. If it is just a sublux, once again, a bit like Reynolds, 1 to 3 weeks is pretty typical. Just hopefully he hasn't, fractured. He did look to come back on, but hit the pads and it was still a bit sore. So hopefully nothing major there in 1 to 3 weeks, but once again, a risk of aggravation moving forward. So a bit of a worry for a Finns team who just their middle is absolutely decimated. Speaking of a decimated middle, they lose their second and third choice hooking options after JMK has the infection. Then Maxi Plath, it sounds like a plantar fascia issue. He was seen in a boot during the week. So that was leading into, they were still talking about him playing. So I'm thinking they're needling up like a plantar fascia tear and playing him through it. He just couldn't quite get there, but they seem pretty confident he'll be back for Magic Round. Then Kurt Donoghoe, there hasn't been much on this. They did say that he went over on his ankle at training, but in that interview, they said, he went over on his ankle, but he should be fine for this week. That was after captain's run. And then 2 hours later, he got ruled out in the 24-hour rule out. So, I don't really know how bad that is. Hopefully it's just a lateral ankle sprain and was too sore to play that particular game because, the Finns need some boys back big time so they can play probably not as good a game as that Sharks game from a couple of seasons ago, James, where I think I lost my mind, but hopefully they put up a good performance on Friday night.
They normally throw a good game out. It's on Magic Round weekend, so hopefully they aim up for you personally, Brien. So hopefully the Finns go well there. Last game of the round, Tigers v Sharks. So Teig Wilton was ruled out pre-game with a shoulder injury. Toby Rudolf as well with an ankle injury pre-game. Koroisau with a knee concern. Mawene Hiroti looks like a medial knee injury. And then Addin Fonua Blake, this was late in the game, probably just one to watch. Difficult to tell mechanism-wise, but maybe pec or maybe AC joint. Hard to sort of tell here for sure, but he's very fantasy relevant. Brien, do you have any more good word on AFB?
Yeah, that was it was 2 tackles before the penalty to decide the game, right? So once again, right at the end of the game, there was no follow-up from the people, like the guys on the sideline, which is fair enough. And then they shoot straight to Matty John's show. No questions about it in the post-match presser. The mechanism was blocked by a whole bunch of other tacklers. So he just looked like he was grabbing it like his pec or his shoulder. So I can't really give much here, but just something to keep an eye out on because, we haven't heard anything on it. I wish sometimes I could text someone in that post-match presser to be like, hey, ask about this because, they're there every week and they don't get asked about, unfortunately. So any AFB owners, sorry, I can't give much more there. It was just 2 tackles before the end. Hiroti looked like a pretty typical MCL sprain. They're pretty confident it's an MCL sprain. It's looking like a moderate grade because it was a pretty heavy contact mechanism. So at least moderate grade, usually 3 to 6 weeks for a moderate grade. He might be able to come back a little bit less if it is kind of a high grade 1 potentially. But they did say interestingly enough that they're really hopeful that KL Iro will be back next week. So it sounds like the Sharks might not miss much. Had a few people in the DMs abusing me that KL Iro didn't come back this week when I said he was 50-50 for round 8 to round 9. I'm not sure if they understand what 50-50 means in terms of he's not back this week, but it's looking like he's going to be back next week. That's the definition of 50-50, guys. So, I always find that interesting. I hope they're going to, if they do win the 50 grand, James, that they're going to transfer us some of the money. But obviously our calls are deciding their team movements. So when they win the big one, I'm sure they'll be passing the money on to us because if we share their losses, then we should also share their wins, I think.
It makes pretty logical sense to me, Brien.
Yeah, good, mate. No, Api Koroisau, he got caught up. Another contact mechanism, not as significant as Hiroti's, but he did get kind of folded in an awkward thing. Benji seemed to be poo-pooing it in the post-match presser, saying there's nothing to it. He just had a bit of a sore knee. He'll be fine. But that, I was a little bit concerned with it when I first saw the mechanism. I was like, oh, that could, I could very easily see kind of a grade 1 to 2 MCL sprain there, which he could miss time for. So they seem pretty confident that they would have done the hands-on test. So I'm always going to defer to them. So hopefully there's nothing to it for Tigers fans. Toby Rudolf, he's having surgery on that syndesmosis injury, 6 to 8 weeks. And Teig Wilton, 2 to 4 weeks with his shoulder issue. I couldn't find the mechanism. No one in the broadcast channel could remember a specific incident from last week. So I kind of skipped through the game. I couldn't really see anything. So I'm assuming like an AC joint issue. If he's played the full 80 minutes and now he's out for 2 to 4 weeks, it sounds like kind of a grade 2 AC joint. So just something that he's probably going to be at an increased risk of aggravating moving forward.
Nice summary, Brian. We might just launch straight into the questions then this week, because that's the summary of all the football games that have been over the weekend. So let's go to question number 1, Brian. So last week's podcast was great. That's a good shout out. Thanks for sliding that one in first off the bat. But can you do an update on the longer term injuries for anyone holding players through medium term injuries for SuperCoach purposes, Brian? I think you've done really well here and sorted them by sort of percentage ownership. So I think I'll just throw it over to you there to list some names, and we can say if we'd hold or not hold.
Yeah, so I thought I just went to the SuperCoach app, and you can filter and tick injured on the app, and the app isn't the most accurate thing at times, but I feel for this kind of question it's probably the best, because then I could sort by percentage ownership. So from top to bottom, we've got guys like Harry Grant, Jayden Campbell, Reece Walsh, Gachevsky, Jamie Humphries, Jack Howarth, Tui Pilotu, Fisher Harris, Zach Lomax, and RTS. So for me, I think Harry Grant, I'm fine for you to hold him at this point, with the update that he's only expected to miss round 8 and 9, and they're happy for him to be, or they're hopeful for him in round 10. Jayden Campbell, I'm a little bit more nervous about. The only reason I'm okay with holding him is because 5'8" is shit, and there's not a whole lot of obvious. It's like, do you really want to burn a trade there if you're not short on cash? If you're pretty happy with how the rest of your team is, like me, for example, I've got 600 grand sitting in the bank this week, and I scored my best score. So it's just one of those things where cash is so plentiful at the moment. I don't mind it if you're pretty okay there. Reece Walsh, a definite sell for me. I think I've heard it could even be 6 to 7 weeks for Reece Walsh, so could be a little bit longer. The concerns for performance when he returns as well. Gachevsky, definite sell. He's 8 to 10 weeks with a broken arm. Humphries, he's back in the next couple of weeks, so hold there if you've still got him. Howarth, I think there's way too many options at CTW. And same with Tui Pilotu, to be honest with you. I know if you've held Tui Pilotu for the last couple of weeks, the temptation is probably there to keep holding him. But I just think with the re-injury risk around hammies and the good options at CT I'd be moving him on. Fisher Harris, once again, there's so many good options at front row as well. Like we've got Aaron Clark, who's replacing him at the moment. We'll talk about him later. He's a great option. So I don't mind selling him. And Zach Lomax and RTS. RTS is probably looking at around round 11, I think, at this point in time. So if you can hold him till then. But I just think CTW is a place, like I don't mind holding a Jayden Campbell because 5'8" is crap, but like CTW, front row forward, these kind of places where there's these kind of positions where there's so many good options, I'd just be moving on and jumping on somebody else who's killing it. Mate, have you got any input on any of those guys? Any who you definitely hold or sell, or different than me, for example?
Yeah, I'm going to be really boring and say I've got no real different takes there, Brian. The Jayden Campbell one's the one that's bang on. I'm holding him for all intents and purposes in standard setup, so it's not a great hold. But when you look at what you can downgrade to, there's not really much there on offer either. And then you got to think, well, I'm probably going to bring him back in towards the end of the season as well. So for me, Jayden Campbell is a hold. It doesn't feel great, but I think once he does return and if he goes back to close to his best, and I think you'll be happy about that hold, to be honest, because he's a pretty high upside guy in a team that's, Titans are leaking heaps, but they can also score a heap as well. They're that sort of squad, unfortunately. They're going to be chasing a lot of points as the weeks go on. So I think that's what you can look at with Jayden Campbell. Question number 2, Brian, is about Ryan Pappenhausen. He was goal kicking last game with Nick Meaney back on deck. Do you think he'll keep that up? And if he does lose the goal kicking, do you think he'll be a sell for SuperCoach purposes at that stage?
Mate, I think he'll hold it because he's been kicking it like 90% or something, like something ridiculous I read during the week. So I think he's kicking really, really well. He's obviously back, touch wood, from like the injury concerns in terms of, I know they held it off him at the start because they just didn't want him to focus on it. They wanted him to focus on staying healthy and those kind of things. So yeah, I think he does keep it for the moment. If he loses at any point, do you think he is a sell? Like for me, with fullback the way it is at the moment, mate, it is all over the shop. Like you probably, I mean, you're happy if you had Drinkwater this week, but in the past weeks, I mean, he's lost 70 grand on his price this year. I was talking in one of the group chats about all the first round draft picks, being pretty lackluster apart from Teddy, really. And it got tossed out Drinky. But I'm like, I own Drinky in 2 leagues, and he's just been average. Like he's been scoring 50s, 60s, early 70s, which is okay, but it's also not fantastic for your first round draft pick. So, yeah, like I wouldn't sell him straight away because on the end of that Melbourne backline, it all depends on price and what the other options are. But it wouldn't be if I saw he lost it, I'd immediately sell. It'd have to be a really good option. Like if I didn't own Teddy, to go to a Teddy, for example, or if our boy Tommy Turbo's back and look good, mate, that might be the other option. But I don't think if he loses it, he's a definite sell just purely because he's on the back of, that awesome Melbourne team, which surely clicks into gear a little bit more. What about yourself?
I think if he wasn't goal kicking, I would sell. Personally, I think there's a lot of other options at fullback. There's guys with bigger ceilings. Perhaps he was very close to even a bigger score on the weekend for those that weren't playing along. Like there was a couple of tries or line breaks he was nearly on the end of, and he could have gone even bigger. But I think his ceiling with the goal kicking is just immense. I think forever while he's doing that, he keeps it. And I think to your point, he's kicking them so well. I don't see Nick Meaney coming in and taking the goal kicking tee off him anytime soon. So hopefully for Supercoach purposes, he keeps that going and we keep enjoying the big old scores that Paps is delivering every week. What a play though, Brian. He's such a good watch, isn't he, old Ryan Paps? When he's on, he's on. I almost reckon the goal kicking gets him more in the game as well for some reason. Like there just seems to be this he seems to be on the ball a bit more. I don't know. There's just like there seems to be a good vibe with him goal kicking, with his general involvement across the park as well as the game just go on. Next question is about Kieran Foran. How concerned are you about Kieran Foran coming back from his bicep injury? Will the Titans maybe manage his minutes to begin?
Man, I don't think they can afford to, right? Like, I think he's got to come in the halves at this point in time. I think maybe if you had like a fully fit Jaden Campbell there and like Brimson was killing it and Keeney was still at fullback killing it, then yeah, absolutely probably play off the bench. But I think at the moment, like a bicep isn't something that I'm overly concerned about. I've never seen. I don't think I've ever seen. I can't think off the top of my head a re-rupture of a bicep. I know Jake Friend fractured his radius where they drilled they drilled into the bone, so he kind of fractured around the screw for the bicep. But that's really the only complication that we've seen from a biceps rupture surgery that I can think of. So the re-injury risk isn't a massive concern. Yeah, I just think he's got to go into the halves. And I mean, outside of this question, AJ Brimson to fullback would be my call. But yeah, I just think Foran's got to come back in because the Titans aren't going well and they need him. Yeah, they need him there and to lead the side around.
Yeah, I guess we saw Jamal Fogarty and Adam Reynolds come back last year after bicep tears and not re-injure and not play reduced minutes. So I would just Control-C, Control-V that for Kieran Foran coming up here. He's been there, done that before with these sort of things as well. He knows where he needs to be at. So I think Desi will lean in there ASAP when he's back on the field. In terms of Adam Reynolds, so they talked about not getting a scan done for Adam Reynolds and his shoulder or neck concern. Do they purposely not want to find out the extent of the injury and keep it sort of out of sight, out of mind, to use those inverted commas there in the question?
Yes, this is a really interesting question. And James, I'm sure you and I could do a podcast completely on this topic outside of NRL, just about, scanning and why it's not always necessary and those kind of things. Pro sport tends to be typically a bit different at times where they want to scan a lot of things, and they have access to scanning. And I would say when I say pro sport is a little bit different, it used to be a little different because I'll throw to you in a second to talk about it. But effectively what we're finding in the physio and medical world with a lot of scans is that as we age, as we are active, if we scanned our entire bodies, we'd have a lot of what we call incidental findings, which are things that like bulging discs, like degeneration of cartilage, cartilage tears, these kind of things, which aren't painful. They're not causing painful signs, symptoms, those kind of things. But if somebody gets a scan and finds out they've got 2 bulging discs or a cartilage tear or something like that, how does that play on their mind? Are they, especially as an athlete, if you get a scan on your shoulder and you find out that, I've got a small cartilage tear in there, which isn't that big a deal and isn't causing you too many issues, but does that play on your mind? Are you a bit more hesitant tackling with that shoulder moving forward, those kind of things? So in the everyday population, it's more like, how does that contribute to your pain? How does that contribute to the way that you're viewing your pain? It's what we spend a lot of our day doing, James, and I'm sure you're exactly the same, is talking people around, have come in and they're like, I've slipped a disc, or I've got a bulging disc, and I've got the back of an 80-year-old and I'm only 40, and these kind of things. And it's trying to explain to people that scans aren't everything. They help guide treatment at times, but they're not the be all and end all. And a lot of things that come up on scans don't necessarily relate to your pain directly. So you've got a really good example actually from a pro sport perspective, and I guess can continue on with that topic.
Yeah, so interestingly, this is a bit of a nerdy chat, but it's one of the sort of postgrad pain science things that I'm doing at the moment. There's a sort of a leading pain science researcher based out of South Australia. He does a lot of consultative work with one of the AFL teams in South Australia. And interestingly, the topic of scanning has come up in his consultative work and, stuff he does across teams there at the elite sport level. And what he said directly in this online tutorial that we were doing, he's like, well, actually, a good example of this is the Brisbane Lions of recent years. I think in the last sort of 2 or 3 years, they have used imaging way, way, way less frequently. And what they've found is they've actually got players back quicker than they have done in the past, and performing back at a reasonable clip there as well. So it's not to say they don't use imaging at all, but they're just way, way, way more judicious with the use of imaging. So I guess in the Adam Reynolds situation, it would probably be based on, is there neurological fallout from a neck concern or an arm concern? Is there major amounts of instability or major weakness on sort of testing would be your guides for, like, hey, we probably need to image this. But if there's not any of those things that are sort of major concerns, then they're probably just like, okay, well, if it's a pain tolerance thing, let's just give it a week, see if we can settle it down, see if we can rehab it back, see what we need to get him back to before Magic Round, before the boys line up for dad schoolies and rip and tear. So from that point of view, it's a very interesting take on things because, like you said, Brian, they're pretty keen to image most things in a pro sports setting. But yeah, I guess the Brisbane Lions, from what I understand as well, it's a sort of a cross codes thing. They're doing it a little bit differently, where they're using scanning quite judiciously, and they're finding actually we're getting people back quicker. So if they have a knee concern and they think, okay, this is a MCL injury, it's probably a grade 1 based on our testing, we're just going to manage it as that, and then we're going to just see how quickly we can get people through without putting because as soon as you diagnose it via an image, it's a grade 2 MCL, then automatically people go, oh, well, that's a 4 to 6 week injury. Whereas if you just do the hands-on testing and you look at the physical exam and you look at their limitations and performance impacts, you can probably accelerate that a little bit more than we give these guys credit for. So that's the thing about elite athletes is, their ability to rehab things is just insane. They're so good at what they do. And a lot of the, strength and conditioning and, physio input they get at those clubs is insanely good as well. So, I think we probably sell people short a bit too much if we just scan everything and just base our rehab protocols off the scan, because there's some people that can probably get through things a little bit quicker. And that's probably how we've sort of come to developments in certain, I guess, rehab protocols as well, Brian, isn't it? Like, we've seen people return to things a lot quicker in recent times because, oftentimes if you don't scan it, you can get them back quicker. And then after season, you go, oh, okay, they played through that whole thing. Then you can get by without those things as well. So it's a good little conversation topic. It's one we could talk to about forever because it's one that comes up very, very frequently in the clinical setting. But for all intents and purposes in the elite sport here, it's probably not an unreasonable thing for them to not scan Adam Reynolds because the Brisbane Lions have led the way there. That's a good thing. All right, Brian, we'll talk about scans a lot there. We'll move on to the next question about Jackson Purdue and Murray Taulagi. They didn't show Cat 1 signs after their head clash. And the question here was a bit confused as why Purdue didn't at least come off for a HIA as part of that.
Yeah, mate. I mean, we touched on it at the start. I've sincerely, and this is a really sad point to be at, but I've just given up on trying to look at these HIA concussion things from any kind of objective point. It's nonsensical at times in terms of what but mainly because there's no communication. There's no communication. There's no education around these things. Like, without toot my own horn, mate, I am the most education on this stuff that exists in the game. And that should not be the case. I'm just a dude like on social media. Like, the NRL should be coming out every week explaining these things to educate people on why. And it's not even about putting the doctors on blast. It's about educating the fans so that they're not sitting there being like, why did that person who we thought was knocked unconscious or whatever, why is he able to play? Because as we said, it trickles through to understanding around these things. It especially at the grassroots, those kind of things. So, yeah, look, I mean, I thought that both Purdue and Taulagi looked pretty dusty after that head clash and could absolutely have justified from both of them coming off HIA and could have absolutely justified in Category 1 signs. But, yeah, it's just it's an absolute cluster of these kind of things. Even I'm sitting there and I just don't even, I just sit there and go, oh, that's a G up, with a lot of them because I'm at a loss for words and I'm very rarely at a loss for word, James, as you know.
There's many examples, especially this year, Brian. It seems like there's more examples of these guys that look like they've got Cat 1 signs that just aren't even going for them. It's a bit of a weird state of play. And I think the reason why it's frustrating for fans as well is there's just this massive inconsistency where the bunker intervenes a lot of times as well. I think even in that Bulldogs Broncos game, it was like Matt Burton got told, oh, no, the bunker, and the doctor said, no, you got to come off. So there's even an inconsistency there, probably in terms of when it gets intervened and when it doesn't. So it's certainly a bit of a confusing one. Certainly no clearer than it has been at the start of the year, which is frustrating for all. Next question is about the Suncorp Stadium turf, Brian. This is a great question. Suncorp looked pretty sort of ripped up on the weekend because they've had a lot of games on it of recent late and heaps of rain in Brisbane. And apparently they're laying completely fresh turf this week. Should we be concerned about injuries for Magic Round out of this? Brian, I want to start by saying I will not hear a bad word about the Suncorp surface because it has been pristine for like 20 years. Like ever since like Hodjo did his ACL in a
Sandcorp, since Sandcorp.
Sandcorp. Yeah. Since like 2004 or 2003. Since then, it's been prime, especially, I don't know about you, but we've been to all the Magic rounds, and they've always by the last game of the round, the surface has always held up well. So I will not hear a bad word about the Suncorp Stadium turf for one. What about yourself? What are you thinking in terms of laying fresh turf this week? That's pretty extreme, isn't it?
Yeah, mate, like it's been done before. I think we talked about it off air. There was one, now I'm going to get this wrong, but it was something like there was an Ed Sheeran or a Coldplay like concert a week before the season was due to kick off and they had to move everything out and relay the turf and then it was fine. There were no like turf related injuries. We've been to that many Magic rounds now where the turf has been completely fine, even though people want to bring up the story every year. Now, look, to be fair, they're laying fresh turf and then there's going to have to be like Women's Origin Thursday and then 8 games. So it's going to be like 9 games over 4 days. So I don't know whether fresh turf has had that much of a test, but like, prove it wrong because so far it's ticking boxes. It's A+. There's not been any issues with it. And I come back to, I say it time and time again, and I'm going to say it again. When I would be most concerned about injury on new turf is the first game of the week. Because as we know, the highest risk of injury, or as we should know as listeners of this podcast, the highest risk of injury is when the ground is most pristine, when it's grippiest, when players can run fastest, change direction, the most rapid, they can jump, they can land, they can do all those things because the turf is completely pristine. So the forces going through those bodies is a lot more. Yeah, that's when I'm most concerned about it, is when it's most pristine. When it's chopped up a little bit, it's a bit softer, maybe there's a bit of rain around, it's actually good for injuries. Maybe get a few more hammies here and there. But in terms of things like your ACLs, syndesmosis, those kind of things, give is good. Give in the ground is good. So yeah, I'm not that fussed. Team Suncorp surface all the way, mate. Always have been,
Yeah.
always will be.
Fully with you on that one. Next question is about Kalen Ponga. Is he a hold for Supercoach purposes at this point? I think will he be about 540K by the end of this weekend, Brian? I think that's where he's priced in at. Are you holding on to Kalen Ponga?
Mate, the answer is no. Like, he's not a hold. In isolation, he has to be a sell because it's like he's just been so bad and the Knights have been so bad. But I say he's a sell. He's 540K. I just don't know whether I can jump off him at 540K because I just like if you told me if I didn't own Kalen Ponga and I didn't have the feeling that I've had holding him for the last like 6 weeks, I'd be like, oh, Kalen Ponga, 540K. Like maybe I could, like it's kind of like us Ponga owners. We've got that bad feeling because we've held him and we've been there. But if you didn't own him, you'd be tempted, right? Especially if Origin wasn't coming up. So it's one of those things. He's got to go to Teddy at some point, but I just don't know whether it's yet for me. I just can't. I don't know whether I can jump off him at 540K. I jumped off Gutho at like 780 or whatever he was this week. And that's worked out brilliantly for me. But I jumped off because I was thinking he was at almost the peak of his price. But yeah, you're a Ponga owner as well, mate. What are you doing?
I am holding on, as in the sunk cost fallacy. We talk about this in fantasy sometimes when someone really just starts to shit the bed. You sort of have this sunk cost fallacy where you think, no, it'll come good, it'll come good. I don't want to bring it up, but we did do this last year with Isaac Tungo for a long time. We went, no, it's got to come good, it's got to come good. It never came good. The wheel never turned there. So I don't know if I'll move Kalen Ponga this week. I think the most logical week to move him will be like around 11, round 12. Probably time period. So I could go this week. I could go from him up to Drinkwater, but my center wing spot is so dire. I almost prefer to upgrade center wing this week and have Ponga in my top 18 because I still think he's a decent play every week compared to other positions and other players. So I'm happy to play him from that point of view. If my team was fully loaded and my center wing was like just 4 throbbers and I didn't have to reserve anyone from there and it was just Kalen Ponga sitting there and I was like, oh, maybe not. If Jaden Campbell was playing, would I move him? Maybe. But I just have a few other holes that I think Kalen Ponga, while he's still playing and lining up, he's probably not quite a sell this week. Maybe in a week or two, he might, and he might still lose more money than that. That's okay. That's just the risk you take in the game you play, unfortunately. But yeah, it'd be nice to move him up, but I don't know if too many people would be very, very keen. I guess you got the cash this week to do so, but you might want to sort of invest that elsewhere, Brian. We'll talk about that in Supercoach Corner. I guess in terms of the high tackle and hip drop crackdowns, could this maybe cause more concussions in the long run, Brian? This is the next question because I feel like there's more pressure on defenders and blokes are getting knocked out by knees and hips. Like, do you think there's a potential correlation here between the crackdown and maybe more concussions in the long run? I don't think so to me. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Not in the long run. So I'll present both sides of it here. Is that I think this incorrect notion that guys get knocked out by knees and hips going low more than going high. It's just unequivocally not true. And I'm not talking because a lot of the people who ask this question to me or ask this question in general are like, oh, how I feel or what I see is I see this happen a lot, right? And that's like that's you as an individual and people, like-minded people you might talk to. But there have been so many studies done on this worldwide, and this is rugby union, rugby league, rugby union at the top level and all the way down to, like the sub, like the Q Cup, reserve grade level as well. It just is. So in rugby league specifically and the NRL specifically, you are 3.2 times more likely to have a concussion where the ball carrier and the tackler are upright. So in other words, if you are going high, there is 3.3 or over 3 times more likely for a concussion to occur in that tackle than if the tackler has a bent back and is going lower. And now if you go too low, and when I say too low, you're getting down around the knees, so sort of from the thighs and down. When you have guys go down too low, it does, like, it's more risky than kind of hitting that torso. But that sweet spot of the torso down to the hips is by far the safest position for the tackler's head to be. Now, are there going to be cases, certain tackles, and I mean, guys coming back off long runs, like running off the back fence, you've got two other guys beside you, where do you put your head, those kind of things. I completely get those arguments. And there are certain tackles where, yes, it is going to be more risky to be low because of other factors. But if you go over 1,000 tackles in a game, by and large, it is safer for you to go low. My issue with it is that a lot of these changes are done on the fly, James. Like you're asking players to adjust their tackle technique week by week, which that component of it is absolutely going to cause more concussions, just unequivocally, because players they've spent all off season tackling a certain way, performing their stuff a certain way. And then you've all of a sudden been like, oh no, now we're going to clamp down on this, like from one week to the next, which just is, it's just going to cause them a lot of problems. They're going to be uncertain going into tackles at times, those kind of things. So yes, that component of it, but I do want to emphasize that going lower is safer. Even going down around the knees, that is less likely to cause a concussion than going up top. Yes, that's my rant about that.
Good rant, Brien. We'll go on to the next one here because this is about Magic Round. So the question opposes, first time at Magic Round this year, boys. Any general recommendations? Top 5 places to have a beer? You take it away, Brien.
Oh, yeah, it's a good question. My general recommendations are, if you spend the whole weekend on Caxton Street and at Suncorp, that's all you really need. We'll talk about a few other establishments where you can go, but for us personally, I just find Caxton Street is, it's God's gift to rugby league, especially in Magic Round. Anywhere along Caxton Street is a good place to have a beer. At Magic Round, I don't think there's many bad ones. Even Lefties, mate, not too bad, even though it is a little bit alternative. But like, you can go anywhere on Caxton. So that would be my general recommendations, is if you're there, particularly like Friday, if you've got the day off work and you're getting in early, like, get to Caxton Street as soon as you can. That's my best advice, is just get to Caxton Street as soon as possible. I mean, we'll try and get there probably just before lunch both days, have a feed, have a palmy at one of the pubs, and just sit back and just soak up the rugby league. How good. Top 5 places to have a beer. The clear top 2 for me are Caxton Hotel and Lord Alfred. They're my 2 favourite places by a country mile. Caxton Brewing Co. on Caxton Street is a good one, although I think it closed down for a little bit there. I don't know whether it's back open again. I haven't been to Caxton in a while, to be honest. And then it used to be Newstead Brewing Co., but it's now Last Man Standing, I believe, which isn't on Caxton Street. It's on the other side of Suncorp. So if you hop off the train at Milton Station, for example, and you're wondering where should I go, and I don't want to walk all the way up to Caxton Street, just go to Last Man Standing. It's a great location. Heaps of different places to sit back and just have a beer, and really, really good. Mate, any general recommendations from yourself? And then, hit me with any places to have a beer that I have missed.
No, you got them. I think the top 2 are definitely Caxton Hotel and Hotel LA. They're probably the 2 that we frequent, definitely the most frequently. Like, let's put that out there. We're there probably the most frequently. I do like, it was, it's called Last Man Standing Brew Pub there on Castlemaine Street. So it's just down the road from the Milton Macca's, actually. So if you do a sneaky breakfast at Milton Macca's, you can have a breakfast beer down there at Last Man Standing Brew Pub on the way down there. It's normally a good one. I really don't mind, like, on the Paddington end going to, like, Darling & Co. You're just off the tail end of Caxton Street there. Paddington Hotel's a little bit up the road there, but it's a good place. Like, if you want, like, pretty good fee there at Paddo as well, they're pretty good places. We don't get down that far, to be honest. We sort of stay fairly close to, like, the barracks sort of end of Caxton Street, I would say, sort of at the pointy end of things there, up on top of the hill, because you can gaze out over the sunset and enjoy the atmosphere and enjoy the frivolities that abound in Magic Round, that's for sure. So, no, they're probably the main ones, I would say.
Is the one I forgot. The 4X Brewery. How could I forget?
Oh, the breweries. Yeah, that's true.
Get one off the wood. Get a bitter off
Heart and
the
soul
wood.
of Queensland. That's right. That's right. I don't know what they do in terms of brew tours over that time. We're normally a little bit further down the road, aren't we? And I'm not one for walking very far. So usually people that frequent with me, I don't walk very far. So I'd be Ubering it from the 4X brewery into Caxton Street, and everyone gives me shit about it. But I just don't like using my 2 feet and my heartbeat when I'm having a beer. So that's probably a reason why we haven't made it up that far. So yeah, I would say definitely Kako, definitely Hotel LA are probably the biggest two. Lefties is not my thing, not my scene, so I could take or leave lefties for sure. The one place that we haven't really been to very much, but I know I've got sort of family members that sort of stay there at. It used to be called like Gambaro's Hotel, which is called the Beatson Hotel now. There's like a little bar in that sort of section there that they talk up pretty highly, but I think it might only be for hotel guests. I'm not really too sure, Brian. So you might not be able to sort
It
of
always
swing the
looks a
list
bit
too much from
fancy,
that point of view.
James. I've never.
It's
I
very
said to
fancy.
you. Well, I said to you off air. I've never
Yeah,
been there ever. Like
yeah,
never
yep.
had a beer there ever. And I think it's because when I walk down Caxton Street, it's just I look in there and I'm like, I'm not sure if that's my people. I don't like. I want to see. I I just want to see
I'm just
more
a
of what I
humble,
see
common working
across the
man.
road.
Yeah, yeah. I'm
They're
but a
my
humble,
people. They're
common
my
working
people.
man.
Yeah.
I'm NRL Physio. I'm not that rich. I can't frequent Gambaros. That's probably not your vibe there, Brian. I guess what's the next question here from, I guess, the broadcast channel is, for someone who's coming over from NZ, what's the best beer to drink at Magic Round there, Brian? There's not that many to choose from, really, is there, when you're pouring up at the stadium? There's not too many beers on tap to select from, is there?
Yeah, so I don't know. I can't remember how Magic Round works in terms of like because I know like obviously the different teams have the different sponsors and stuff like that. So it's always a bit confusing as to what they're actually going to dish up to you in the stadium. In the stadium for me, mate, it's all watered down, not great. I haven't come across many good beers. There are some can bars, and I reckon that's your best option. Like I know we last year we did a walk to go to the can bar because we were just like, yeah, like give me a couple of cans, will be good. But yeah, no, I think in the stadium you just do whatever's the cheapest for the the most amount of alcoholic material would be my suggestion. And then outside of that, mate, just get your lips around a 4X bitter, 4X gold. They're God's gift.
They're probably going to, aren't they? Like the ones that always seem to be relatively on tap are, yeah, Forex Bitter, Forex Gold. I guess Great Northern's pretty common up this way as well, Brian. Or Stonewood. They're probably the
Yep.
ones that all sort of line up together. So I guess just pick your poison, whether you like a crisp, easy drinking lager or you like something a little bit fruitier and a little bit paler to wrap your lips around. So I don't know. We normally transition off the beers reasonably quickly because we're getting old and ancient. So we need to keep the spirits nice and high from early doors there. So we normally transition pretty quickly. It's normally just a head nod between the group. There's normally just a look around and just one head nod, and someone just goes, "Okay, we're transitioning off these
Gets
things onto
earlier and
the."
earlier every year, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. Actually, like last year, I was like shockingly early, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, this is dangerous stuff." But that's normally the best way to get around it. That from that point of view, I would say for someone coming across the ditch over to Australia. What's your best injury to fake getting off work for Magic Round, Brian? This is a good one.
Mate,
What do you
I'm gonna go with all the infections. Just a staph infection,
Yeah,
mate. Just say,
yeah.
oh look, I've got this, rank pus filled boil on my arm, just can't come into work, and then just get to Caxton Street. I reckon just play off the infections. It's going round.
Just a bad HIA for me. I reckon you can just make it up on the fly. No one will know what you're talking about. There's no clarity on what the inclusion or exclusion criteria is. You could just say, "Oh, just, head trauma." They reviewed the footage and they told me I couldn't go to work. Possibly I can go to Magic Round instead. So that'd be my call is get a HIA into your mix there would be my call. What's the best part of Magic Round, Brian? We're going to wrap up the questions here with the final one. What are your plans for it, and what are the things you enjoy the most about it? What are your highlights?
Yeah, mate, I think it's like it'd be like Catholics going to, Vatican City, for example. You're just surrounded by when you go to Magic Round, you're surrounded by people who worship footy, which that's absolutely the best part for me is everybody is just there because they love footy. There's no like all the teams are playing, so there's not too much kind of rivalry in terms of if it's a say a Broncos Dolphins game or it's like you against us and all that kind of stuff. You're all there, and if your team loses on the Friday night, which mine probably will, it's not, it destroys you for a little bit, but then you're at Magic Round, mate. So it's like, yeah, even if your team loses, it's just, it makes a fantastic weekend. So I think that is the best part, is you're just surrounded by people who really just love footy and love what it brings, and he's there to enjoy it. Lots of good jerseys rolling around too, like, vintage retro jerseys, which I love. So yeah, and then plans for it, mate. We are creatures of habit. I think we'll head to somewhere on Caxton Street at lunchtime, both Saturday and Sunday, get a palmy and just park up until the games. And then I'm not a big, and I know there's a few people who get there and don't go into the stadium for the games. I don't understand that personally. Like, I'm a big get into the stadium and watch the games. Like, I really do enjoy it. So we'll be into the stadium pretty quickly. But then when we come out, we always head straight to Hotel LA, because it seems to not have a line, when the Caxton line straight after the games is absolutely abhorrent. So give it an hour or two after the games finish, find somewhere, and Hotel LA is probably the best place to do it. Until you can wander on down when all the easy beats have gone from Caxton, mate. And I think every year we do our unofficial Magic Sponge catch up. What do we say? Midnight at the downstairs dance floor, downstairs bar at the Caxton. I think that's our play every year between 11 and 12. So if anyone's around, you'll probably find us there. Have you got anything that I've missed there, mate? What's the best part of Magic Round for you?
What's the best part of it? I genuinely think it's time of the year that you don't get to catch up with people you really enjoy catching up with, isn't it? Like, this is our one event for the year, really, that it's like we can get away from everything else that's going on, catch up with your mates, talk absolute rot. Everyone's in kit, everyone's dressed up, everyone's up for the weekend. There's no one in a bad mood for Magic Round. Even if your team loses, no one really hangs on to that for all than 2 minutes, for example. So there's lots to do in the Suncorp precinct, lots of places to go, lots of good chats. You run into heaps of people, you meet and greet heaps of people when you've had a skinful as well. So it's a fun time from that point of view. You sort of, depending on what jersey you're wearing, someone goes, "Oh, that's sick. I love that." Like, "Where you from?" Blah blah, and you have next thing you know, you're like talking like your old kindred spirits. There's that sort of stuff that's really fun. So you run into a whole lot of people from a whole lot of different parts of the world, really, at Magic Round, which is really fun. What else is really good about it? What are our plans? No, I think you've sort of hit on all the key points there, Brien. But I think it's a really fun one, just from like your best mates perspective. It's the one weekend of the year that we all sort of just block off on the calendar, and we go, okay, we're doing that every single year, and we do pay it back in turns to our families as well. We have Mum's Magic Round for all their wives as well, so they probably do it bigger than us, actually, Brien. They normally like get a full hotel going and do 5 course, wine match degustations and stuff like that, and we're just in with the working class people, just
It's
sinking
no
through.
Bundy Bay, mate. It's no Bundy
No,
Bay.
it's no Bundy
Like,
Bay. Let's
come
put
on.
that out there. So, yeah, apart from that, I think we'll be spending a lot of time at Lord Alfred and also the Caco. They're two of the better places to be. I think if you hear "Untouched" by the Veronicas come on the DJ set, then that's where I'll be. You'll see me down there, just absolutely pumping away with my fist in the air to "Untouched" by the Veronicas will be where I end up.
I love it, mate. If you can't tell, I mean, we haven't had many injuries to talk about in this episode, and we're still an hour and 8 minutes in, and it's because we're talking about Magic Round. So apologies to anybody who came here listening for only pure injury content, but hopefully you are anybody who's going to Magic Round, or even if you're not, you are keen for a great weekend. James, SuperCoach Corner. Mate, I think we both scored really well this week, and I reckon we're hitting our straps. We're on a good run. So hit me with your plans, or how you scored, and then what's your plans. I think this is a week where you could choose to do nothing, but I reckon the play is to go hard or go home.
Yeah, I think that's the play, Brian. 13.98 for me as it stands on Sunday night. So I had a pretty stress-free weekend because I VC'd Payne Haas and I saw him put up huge points on Thursday, and I was like, oh well, I'll lock that in. So that was pretty cruisy for me this weekend. It was kind of nice. I didn't have to sweat on team lists or anything like that. I was just like, got my VC sorted. I did have the C on Teddy, so I didn't really sort of miss out on too much there. If I VC looped Haas or C Teddy, I think the points difference would have been like 7 or 8, and I had just it locked in. So it was good peace of mind from that point of view. not worth paying silly buggers with James Tedesco, just in case something happened there. So I traded in Dylan Lucas and Billy Smith this week. So pretty vanilla trade-ins, but pretty happy with it. I moved on Gimmett Shibasaki and Jesse Arthurs. So, I didn't really see the Broncos winning big on Thursday night in the crystal ball there. So I guess moving those guys on, you might look at it and go, oh, geez, probably a little bit premature. But the matchup there looked terrible. So I was like, well, I'm going to take, their price rises and run. As it stands at the moment, I've got 256 grand to play with, and I've got to trade two guys out. And it looks like Thomas Cant and also Tom Jenkins. So that should leave me with about 1.1 million to cover two centre wings, or I could do one centre and one second row. So I've got a few dilemmas here because I'm holding Jaden Campbell, like I mentioned earlier. So trading options, I guess the big one's probably in order. It's Karaz, Herbie, both Fermor's put his name up. I wanted him last week, Brien, and he went absolutely troppo, and I was pretty disappointed about that. But anyway, it is what it is. Alamotti, Jesse Ramey, and Connor Tracy, Campbell Graham are all the guys I kind of like. Rob Derby looks like the only cash grab option there, but he's going to be, what do you reckon? Probably about 380 grand by the time it's all said and done, Brien. So he's not sort of super appealing at price because, once that rolls through his average, you might sort of have to move him fairly quickly, which I probably don't know if I want to do yet. Anyway, I'll see how that goes. I guess second row is that I still am semi-interested in is Jaman Hopgood is so cheap, and Jeremiah Nanai, he went big today. I still don't love him on the left edge, but they're guys at price that I feel like, maybe that's an option to consider. It is in the mid-range there, but I just can't see Jaman Hopgood being bad for a whole year given what he's done in the past. I guess it really depends on if Para go 4 forwards on the bench, then I won't go in. If they go 3 forwards and they go 2 hookers, I probably will go to Jaman Hopgood and another centre wing because it means I might be able to get Karaz and a Hopgood. Maybe it'll be really close, or it might be more like a Fermor or Alamotti and a Hopgood or something like that. The other ones I could do, I think the way I'm leaning is probably a Fermor and a Ramian or Connor Tracy are probably my two guys there. I know Ramian hasn't scored well, but he's had no attacking stats this year. Connor Tracy, the Bulldogs just had a really big down week there. I'm pretty happy to roll with him as a pretty confident play through the bye period. I think the Sharks are worth looking in the bye period here, Brien. I think they're going to be enormously unaffected by Origin. And they're a pretty good team. they had a massive bed shit today, so I don't know what they were doing today, but they're a pretty solid team. I think Jesse Ramian should be on your radar. Ronaldo Militalo should be probably on your radar. Kale Hira should be on your radar. Addin Fonua Blake, I think, pending injury reports should be on your radar as well. So Britt Nicker is going to bottom out in price soon as well. I think Nicker is going to be in the low fives before we know it. So he's someone that you probably need to keep an eye on too, who's going to be someone that seems to always end up on my team every year, but he's got cash to shed based on his sin bin today. So there's a lot of sort of options there to consider, but I'm just sick of having two dud centre wings every week that I can't pick right. So I've just got to move two guys for two decent centre wings. I think Ramian, I know he hasn't scored well, but I think he's playable every week, and I'd be happy to do that. I think Bo Fermor would be playable every week as well, and I'm happy to do that. I just wonder, is Fermor an Origin smoky, Brien? What do you reckon about Bo Fermor? Do you reckon he's in the mix there for Queensland?
That's 100% the reason I was going to say I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm really not looking to buy Origin potential guys at the moment. It's probably my big kind of lean away, just because I think there's so many other good options who aren't. I feel like this year, usually heading into this period, I've got so many Origin guys in my side, whereas this year I feel like I don't have many because there's just so many good non-Origin options. So yeah, I'm just a bit hesitant because the edges for Queensland are not. It's like our weak spot. I would say would be mainly because Billy decides not to pick Dave Fafita every year. It wouldn't be a weak spot if Dave was in there and throbbing. But it tends to be a bit of a weak spot for Queensland. So I just think Bo's a really good chance of that. I like your Jaman Hopgood call. I traded for him in 2 leagues. Draft leagues this week. Got him pretty cheap in both, which I was happy with. I'm kind of with you. Surely he can't. Yeah, he can't be shit all year. I would assume. So I'm kind of hoping for that. I scored 1479 this week, and James, I think have I beaten you to using my last boost? Have you used yours?
You have, yeah. I've still got one. Nah, I still got one. So you beat me.
Yes. I've used my last boost. It is gone. And I'm real happy with it because it worked out real well for me. I might come to regret it later in the season. But yeah, this is the first week all season I've really nailed most things. So I got Drinky in for Gutho and I captained him. Also got Billy Smith. And I ended up being a pussy, James, and getting Marzu. I know I said it in the pod last week that I wouldn't follow the crowd, but I figured if I was using my last boost and doing a bit of a risky play in Drinky for Gutho, which I wasn't completely sold on, I'm like, I better go the cookie cutter option with Marzu. But it was weird. I scored my best score of the season, 1479. I've got 600K in the bank to use whatever I want. So that's mental. So I'm thinking I'm still tossing up potentially the Ponga to Teddy thing. That'll, keep me up at night, I reckon. But I think just similar to you, CTW or second row forward upgrade. So I'm looking at Dylan Lucas, Dave Fafita, Eli Katoa, Aaron Clark, mate. Like I own him in 4 of 6 draft leagues, and it is the best. The best. He is like dual, can switch between second row and front row. He is just absolutely killing it. I think once Fisher Harris comes back, his value probably isn't as high. But yeah, ever since Dylan Walker's left and Fisher Harris has gone down, I think he based like 80 on the weekend. Aaron Clark, he ended up scoring 100 because he got a try assist. But yeah, and then Paul Alamotti, I'm really keen on Alamotti. He scored 60 and got sin binned over the weekend. The one hesitation I have with him is that I just don't know if Brian To'o goes to the left or right wing when he comes back. I assume he goes to the left wing, especially with how well Alamotti has been playing. And I've got in my head, I don't know, this could be wrong, but I think To'o was playing left wing before he got injured, or when he got injured, like that was where he was on that left wing. So I'll have to go back and check some Penrith tape and see what the positioning was then, but I might wait until To'o is back before I jump on Alamotti. And then, James, I know you can probably go back and find some footage of me really shouting this guy down in the preseason and saying he is someone I would never, ever do it again. But, James, is Isaac Tungo a downgrade option at 415,000? He's playing right centre, outside Cleary. He scored 90 on the weekend. He actually looked pretty good. He was so bad last year, but part of why he was bad last year was because I bought him at like 600K. At 400K, it's not the worst. He's got a negative break even. Like, I'll put it this way, I'd rather Isaac Tungo than Rob Derby. And that might be a hot take, but that's where I'm at. So, yeah, mate, you can roast me all you want, but I'm saying Isaac Tungo, not the worst option.
Not the worst option. It takes 2 to tango, as they say, as well, doesn't it? So we might be back on the Isaac Tungo train. I sort of like Campbell Graham at similar price, probably more. Campbell Graham's been basing really well. But the problem is the Bunnies are missing Cody for a bit longer. They're going to be Origin
Trell
effective
suspended.
soon. There's all that to consider as well with Campbell Graham. I think Campbell Graham's like 1% owned. He's going to be about 430, I think, in sort of that sort of realm. And I don't know. I kind of want to go him because he's such a good player, but you just struggle to see where the attacking stats are going to come from there with Souths the way they are. I don't know. Sometimes that stuff can happen by fluke. Sometimes you can just fluke your way into attacking stuff, but I'd almost like Campbell Graham just for the security there. He's going to be in South's team the whole time. Ivan Cleary does play silly buggers with the centre and edge rotations there at the moment. Isaac Tungo was he was in the doghouse there for a little bit. He's back not in the doghouse, and I feel like we do this every year with Isaac Tungo. He has that one huge week and we go, oh yeah, that's right. This guy's really good. And then the rest of the weeks are so mediocre for SuperCoach. You're just like, oh God, I got sucked in. I got thirst trapped in by Isaac Tungo again. Remember, I think last year I think Kelvin Tuolungi was defending at left centre and he just got an absolute bath. I think he put up 145 or 150, something huge. And we all went, oh my God, this guy's unbelievable. So this is the second coming of Bob Fulton lining up in the centres here for Penrith. And it just didn't work out for the rest of the year. I sort of followed your lead. I think I got him on the slide. I think you might have got him at like 700, I reckon, mate. Because I got him at 500 and I was like, oh, this is going to be great. I got him at 5. He's going to tick back up. And then he missed like one of the big buy rounds in round 18 or 19 and did nothing in the rest of the year. And I was just like, what the hell was I thinking there? Awful.
Oh, boy. Isaac Tonga. No, I think with 600 grand in the bank, I probably don't need to downgrade this week. So
No,
I think I've
Eli
got to go.
Katoa's got to be. You got to get Eli Katoa. He's by far the best of those options, I reckon. I think Dylan Lucas is probably second there, to be honest, as well. Like his buy coverage is so good, and the Knights need him bad because they need points, and he's one of their better attacking options. He played 72 minutes coming off the hamstring. I think
He
it lives
scored
up to
60 odd in
Dylan
his
Lucas.
first week back.
I think so.
Yeah.
Mate, he was really unlucky because he missed the last 8 minutes, and I think it was
Yeah,
Brodie
but
Jones crashed over on the left edge, and I was like, "Oh god damn it!"
and they
Brodie
look real
Jones got
similar too. So it was
They
like,
do,
oh,
and yeah, I was like, "Oh, Dylan Lucas scored." I was like, "Oh no, it's Brodie Jones. What a kick in the scrotum." So anyway, I think the points will be there for the left edge of the Knights. I think Dylan Lucas is got to be one that you get. I think there was a fair few trade-ins for him this week, but not a huge amount. I think there was other guys that were traded in high. I think there's probably people that wanted to take a week and see. But who do the Knights have for Magic Round, Brian? That'd be an interesting watch because that'll be a bit of a vibey watch at Suncorp this week
yeah, I'm
coming.
not
That's for
sure.
sure. Because the
The
Knights weren't
only,
there. Was it last year they missed?
yeah.
Was it the year before?
Oh, that's a good question. I think it might have
Can't
been.
remember
I think it was
because I
last year,
think
actually.
last year was the David Armstrong week, I think. He got 3 tries for the Knights. I think they played the Titans. So they got South Sydney on the Saturday early game
Right. That could be a bit of a lie.
where are we gonna be in the Bundy Bay at that stage? We might
Potentially. Is it
well, yeah
5:30? 5:30 on Saturday, did you say?
Nah, it's the
No.
3 o'clock game. Nah, so
Nah,
we're gonna be
5:30.
Warriors Cowboys.
Oh, the Wars. Up the
So
Wars.
you need a Warriors or Cowboys player for that one, I reckon. Oh, you got Scotty Drink, that's good. That'll be a
Yeah,
good
that's
watch.
true. Yep.
I'll have to get Scotty Drinkwater, I reckon. That's probably
Yeah,
the biggest name out of the Warriors Cowboys, isn't it?
100%. The only thing I would say about Katoa is he loses
Mm,
40 grand this week and he's got 106 break even. So I
mm,
think I might wait a week on him because I reckon the way I'm looking at it at the moment is I can get Dylan Lucas is probably my second option and I can
yep.
get any of those other options and still have $180,000 in the bank.
Yeah, okay.
So I'm
Mm,
thinking I get the other two, let Eli Katoa hopefully drop a little bit more. I think to your point, and we've said this before, if you are a super coach person and you are going to Magic Round, you absolutely your trades this week. Because look, let's be honest, you're not winning the 50K or very unlikely, right? You're just doing it for pride at this point. Trade in someone you like and who you think is a vibe going into Magic Round because nothing is better than being at Magic Round and your guy just going off. So that's my thing is even Dylan Lucas, maybe he's too boring, mate. Like maybe I need to get an Alamotti on the end of the Penrith backline and hope he scores 4 tries or something like that. Like, yeah, that would be my big advice to anyone going to Magic Round.
well, I would say here, Eli Katoa plays the very last game on Sunday. That'd be a really good way to finish it up. Just go, okay, I've traded in one of the Storm boys. He's in the second row. It's looking good. That might be, I don't know. It's a little
I
bit
like
vibey,
it.
but he's fairly highly owed. But Eli Katoa could hit 100. Like, I don't think that break even's like, oh, that's safe for Eli Katoa. He's
Yeah.
just got such a big ceiling in him. He's a crazy good player. Crazy good player.
Although I tell you what, it will be really hard to pass up Dave Fafita if he's named to start. Like that would be my thing.
Oh, yeah.
I know
They
it's a
do
Titans,
have the Bulldogs coming off a
oh,
loss. I think
okay.
The Bulldogs will be ready to rip and tear. Like, I think the Titans might have 80 put on them this week. That's why I kind of want Connor Tracy because he's playing the Titans.
Yeah, true. Oh,
And I
yeah.
might even put a little VC on him or something like that. Or I might just
When do they play? Friday night?
Nah, they're the early Sunday game. So they're Sunday
Oh
at
man,
1:50.
we could VC Kiraz, mate.
Oh, I don't have Kiraz though. I gotta
Oh
get him
mate,
in.
you got to get him in. Come
Yeah, I
on.
might have to get him
What are
in.
you doing?
I'm close. Yeah,
You
I
got to get our
just
boy.
didn't get there. I got Dylan Lucas last week. I gotta do it 1 week at a
Oh
time at
mate,
centre wing at the moment,
yeah.
unless
Get our
I
boy.
boost it.
Get our boy in. Maybe I play Adam Dewey this week. That's probably my big thing. He scored like
There you
60
go.
today, so
Yeah, he
maybe
went pretty
that's
well.
yeah,
They're the
maybe that's my
Dragons. Yeah,
play.
you can play that. Hey, that will be cut off from the bar by
Yeah.
7:45 on a Sunday night. if we're going well. So you might as well play someone without consequence on the Saturday night from the West Tigers Dragons game. What a stinker of a game that'll be.
Oh,
Ugh.
jeez, yeah. That we might end up at Caxton early, actually, on the back of
Maybe.
that.
Maybe.
Jeez.
There's a few Supercoach relevant people. I don't know. We might have some stuff to watch there. Who knows?
But, yeah, I think to my point, like, I played Dylan Egan on my bench this week. Don't play Dylan Egan on your bench next week. Like, stack the backs. Yeah, like, you get guys who can score tries because that's what you want, and that will make your weekend so much more fun.
Yeah.
So
You're not the New Zealand All Blacks. You're the Magic Round All Backs. Think about that. Put All Backs in your bench.
I love it. That's a great way to finish the Magic Round All Backs. All right, guys. As always, that's a wrap for this week. If you like the pod, give us a review, recommend to a friend. James, it will be not long until I see you for Magic Round, mate. Looking forward to it. Any listeners who are there, look forward to catching up with you as well. And as always, up the mighty, mighty Redcliffe Dolphins.